Hello and welcome everybody to another podcast, which I'm so excited about. I've got an amazing guest today. His name is Christian Ter and he is currently an engagement lead at ServiceNow. Now, he just celebrated his 2 years anniversary and he's still smiling. His journey at ServiceNow is categorized by empowerment, change, and purpose. Now, he started at ServiceNow in October 2021, and with over 60 plus hires for ServiceNow in the Europe, Middle East, and Africa region, he proactively was looking for a change and now is enjoying the role of engagement lead role, which is part of a job rotation program. So, welcome, Christian. Thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you, Farah. It's a real pleasure. I mean, the title of the podcast is, behind the title with ServiceNow Elite, right? So I might not be the elite yet, but working on it. But no, thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure.
Everybody who works in the ServiceNow space, in my opinion, is elite. So yeah, it's amazing to have you on. And Christian as well, you've got your own podcast as well, which is amazing, which is for anyone who is interested to hear Christian's podcast, I'll make sure I link it below. But yeah, I mean, your own podcast, what's that about?
So basically, the podcast is about various topics, right? But I would say one thing that is kind of the basis or part of every conversation I have there, it's mindset, and also I would say dealing with specific situations, change, right? But also I would like to provide different perspectives on certain topics, and this is kind of what it's about.
Yes.
And leadership as well.
Awesome.
Really curious about leadership. And leadership, I mean, you're also the expert, right? Leadership can have different definitions, and it's really interesting to see how different people defines it for them.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And for anybody who doesn't know you or doesn't know what your role is in ServiceNow, could you just kind of give us a little bit of a background, please?
That's a very good question, and I hope my manager and manager of manager doesn't listen to this conversation because I probably don't get it right with with what the role is about. But it's really interesting, because it's still part of the talent acquisition organization, but it's not a recruiter role, not a sourcer role. And usually, when someone is looking at the title, it's like, what are you doing? Are you getting paid for nothing, or how is your job looking like, right? And as you also mentioned, I kind of was looking proactively for a change because I wanted to develop myself, broaden the horizon, getting different perspectives and so forth. And I'm really glad that ServiceNow is having this bungee program. Basically, it's a job rotation program. So I'm in this role until end of January. Let's see what's coming then. But basically, it's a mixture of working with universities. So in my case, I work with early in career talent, so basically students focused on Germany and the Netherlands. And in this role, it's kind of a mixture. So I'm not getting to be measured based on hires, but it's more about the impact I will have. For example, I mean, usually my role sits even before someone is having a contact with the sourcer from ServiceNow, right? I hope it does make sense. And so it's running events, digital, but also in person, running a lot of engagement activities, also providing promotion stuff, for example, on LinkedIn, but also working on communications plan. So interesting role, I would say. And I'm still smiling, as you mentioned. So
Yeah,
really enjoying
absolutely.
it.
That sounds like a really interesting role, really important role as well, because obviously, like, I work in recruitment, and we very much do the Netherlands and Germany market. And I know there's a real lack of resources, it's, they can be hard to come by. So I think what you're doing is a really important job. Do you find that people get excited, but when you go in and present to the universities, are they interested are they excited by the platform?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, right, Germany, Netherlands, very interesting markets, very, very hard. I mean, also one point is that, or it's also due to the fact that we as ServiceNow haven't done that much yet in those markets from an engagement perspective and so forth. I mean, from a professional hiring point of view or professional talent point of view, we are quite well known, right? Especially in the IT market, everybody has good thinking about us. However, when it comes, for example, then to early in career talent and basically students, totally different, right? I mean, most of the times when a US software company is joining Europe, it's like UK, Ireland, those are going to be the hubs in the first place. So the other countries are most of the time not that mature, right? So there we have something to do. And to answer your question, so basically almost nobody knows ServiceNow, which is quite interesting. Usually, you would think, okay, working for a big corporation, quite well known within the market and so forth, that everybody knows, everybody know about you. However, when you're faced then with a different situation, it's really interesting, and it's also quite interesting from a different perspective because you are being challenged now to be kind of an entrepreneur within a bigger corporation, which is adding also a interesting perspective. Yeah,
Yeah.
and therefore, as you mentioned, the role is very important, and it's also great to feel the purpose of it. Otherwise, I wouldn't smile.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, like, what's the plan? Like, obviously, if you go to universities, you promote service now, and people put their hands up and say, "Okay, I'm interested." What's the next step after that? What should they do?
Yes, that's a very good question. And most of the times, also colleagues are asking, as you also asked before, right? What is it? What is it that you do? Especially, what are you measured against, right? So the talent outreach and engagement organization was built quite previously. So we are still in building the organization, right? And therefore, we are also not yet sure what we are going to be measured against, right? Usually you would think, okay, you are going to be measured in terms of how many candidates you have hired, right, for a
Mm-hmm.
job. As I mentioned, we are even before the sourcer is reaching out to people, right? And there it doesn't make sense to be measured against hires. So for us, it's more about how, for example, in my case, how am I how am I increasing the talent pool for ServiceNow in a specific area, so early in career, and then in a specific location, so for example Germany or Netherlands. So this is
Yeah,
this is most of the measurement. Yeah,
that's very good. And
and in terms of
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, I'm sorry. I think I missed to answer one part of your question. What's coming after? So basically, when we had, for example, an event, right, then it's also about the follow up. So having the event and having the first interaction is basically kind of the start. So much more important than is also doing the follow up, right? So engage really, kind of really engage then with the candidate or interested folks, I would say, and also providing the contacts internally, but also encouraging to apply then for a role, maybe also providing some tips and tricks what ServiceNow is looking for, so to really set them also up for success. I think, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe you have a different thinking about it, but it's also about the enablement kind of. In the past it was more like, okay, you're not convincing in the first conversation because you haven't done your homework, right? So I think nowadays it's much more important to really do your due diligence and try to get the understanding. So what we are also trying to do is to provide the same opportunity for everyone to be successful in the first conversation. So it's also about empowerment, I would say.
And like, obviously you've been a recruiter yourself, right? So what advice would you give? Like what tips can you share, particularly when it comes to let's start first with the application process. Like, is there any hints and tips that you can give to anyone about how to successfully get a job at ServiceNow?
Yes, that's a very good question. And if you don't mind, I would like to answer your question with my story.
Please. Yeah,
So
it'd be
I'm not
amazing.
saying,
Yeah.
yeah, so, so I'm not saying that my story is the best and the only way to do it, right? However, I think that it was, or it's something you can take with you, right, and adapt to your own situation and stuff. But yeah, so basically, when I was looking for a change, I was also obviously thinking, okay, what company would be, yeah, a good next step on the one side, but also a company who is providing me the framework to be successful. And successful, in my definition, was to be, yeah, able to, yeah, personal develop, right, in whatever way that in whatever way. And then I did my search, and so forth. And back at the time when I was at Adobe, a lot of people from Adobe were going to ServiceNow. So there was kind of the connection in my mind. So, okay, ServiceNow was kind of on the radar, but yeah, so kind of, right. So that was the first step. The second step was then, okay, doing the due diligence. And this is a very important part, So not just doing the research on the company you are trying to apply, but also trying to understand the culture and the mindset of the people, right? But also of the company per se. And you can do that by reading blogs, by reading comments from people who applied, like on Glassdoor, right? On the other side, I was, as mentioned, I knew two people plus minus who were working at ServiceNow at the time. So I reached out to them and I was asking them, do you mind to provide me, yeah, your point of view? How is it working at ServiceNow, right? Is it like it is saying on Glassdoor? Is it totally different? Are you thriving? Are you not? Whatsoever, right? So I had a few conversations and also was getting I, luckily positive feedback, so it was encouraging to apply, right? But I mean, it's one thing to have a company on the radar, but on the other side, you also need to be lucky, right? And I was lucky that ServiceNow was looking for a recruiter back at the time, the first one here in Germany, and I applied. Although at the same time, ServiceNow on paper was looking for a much more senior person, right? And therefore, it was like, am I the right one? I don't have the right experience based on paper, on theory, right? However, I thought to myself, okay, just try it, right? The worst thing what can happen is they say no, but nothing lost if it's a no, right? So I applied, and then I had a first conversation with a recruiter, so kind of the usual process. And then I had a conversation with my manager back at the time. It's Alia Katab, and she was amazing. I mean, I'm a person who really needs a purpose, a manager who provides me a vision, right? Who is providing me the framework for personal development and stuff I already mentioned. She was, yeah, she was and still is so inspiring, which is I'm getting goosebumps. And so I had the conversation, and then I also asked, based on paper, you were looking for a much more senior person, right? And why are you considering me, at least in investing also the time today to have the conversation with me, right? And what she said, and what I also experienced then in my work as a recruiter, is hire for attitude and train for skills. I think this is so powerful and so empowering. I mean, obviously, up to a certain extent, right? Every role has different criteria, situations, frameworks, perspectives, and so on. But in my case, yeah, it worked out, right? And I can say ServiceNow changed my life.
And there's so many points in there that are just so like valuable. Obviously, um not being afraid to apply. I think that's probably like the golden advice. It's like sometimes people look at it and they say, oh, you need 5 years minimum
Mm.
experience, and should I apply? Naturally, yeah, if you've only got like 3 months experience, you might not be ready. But I think that's great advice to say, look, just go for it. What's the worst that can happen? They can say no. But I really liked your point about looking at reviews about the company. I think that's like really helpful, because I think sometimes people will just look at a company website and then don't dig deeper. So I think that's really, sometimes I think you're right. You should reach out to people if you know that they work there, or even sometimes if you don't know they work there, because sometimes when you read reviews, they could be like employees that are just not happy. And it's like they always say, normally people leave reviews when they're not
Yeah,
happy. When
yeah,
someone's really happy, they generally don't unless they're asked to,
true.
right? So I would kind of also, you know,
That's true.
take some with a pinch of salt. But yeah, I think that's amazing advice. And the fact is, you're still smiling, which is brilliant.
True. I'm still smiling, and I hope
Yeah.
it won't change in the future. But maybe I would like to add one more point. So regarding doing the due diligence, right? I mean, most of the times it's not coming from one day to the other that you're thinking of moving a company, right? So it's kind of a process, and I highly recommend, building your network much more early on, right? So when you're starting to think, or when the thought arises that you want to change company, it's too late, right? So try to build your network much more early on, 6 months or 1 year ahead or whatsoever. It can also be today, right? So when you know, okay, company XYZ is interesting for me for the future, start today, build your network today, and then it's much more easier to leverage your network, getting insights that might be helpful for the process and so on. But you also can be referred, right? So yeah, just do it now. Don't waste time.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's great advice. And with like social media as well, it's so easy to connect with people. And it's even if you don't know them personally, but you're in the same field, I would still say connect with them, because people are just so open to talking and sharing. And I think, for me, that's one of my favorite things about the ServiceNow community, is that everybody is just so helpful. Like I've never had anyone, even like to me in my station, as like like a recruiter. If I ask for help, they're always so helpful and willing. And if I need something explained which is a bit more technical, and I don't come from a technical background myself, but people are just ready to share, and be open. And I think that's wonderful. So, and obviously in your current role where you are trying to promote service now, like what key kind of like is there a demand particularly in ServiceNow of a certain job role, or do you think people should just kind of follow their dreams, follow their passion, what they're interested in, or is there a particular demand in a certain job role, like within the ServiceNow platform, that there's a huge demand for in Germany and Netherlands?
Yeah, I think in general, so besides Germany, Netherlands, AI, right? I mean, it's kind of a buzzword, but it's the situation for this kind of area, right? Besides that, I think when we have a look at the demand per se, I mean, to give you a context, right? So we also have a program that is called RiseUp, and I mean, when you have a look at it, you know what the demand kind of is, right? So that it's not just about for us for ServiceNow to have the right talent. I mean, it's one thing, right? But the other thing is, if our partners and our customers don't have the right talent, then it doesn't make sense, right? And therefore, it's also very important what you do, because you are also providing the talent for partners, for customers, whatsoever, right? So I think from this perspective, post sales roles are quite in high demand. I think the program underlines it, what I've just mentioned. Besides that, good salespeople, always good, right? I mean, to be honest, or let's be honest, right? Outside of the US, most of the times we are a sales organization, so having great sales talent is quite essential. But it's also interesting. I mean, from a demand perspective, there's obviously due to the economic situations and so forth, not that high demand for recruiters. But shout out to all recruiters, because being a recruiter and doing a great job is quite hard, especially nowadays. I mean, you experience it yourself, right? And I would also like to mention that what you do, for example, also with this podcast series, right? It's not just about earning money, right, with what you do and so forth, but it's also, at least from my perspective, giving back, and also to empower people, because you also showcase that the ServiceNow ecosystem is quite interesting and can change lives, right? So thank you for doing that. Just want to say that.
No, yeah. Do you know, honestly, it's amazing. Like, honestly, this is the whole reason why we started the podcast, was because, we were getting asked so many like questions and calls and emails and LinkedIn messages, and people just really wanted to know how to navigate their career.
Mm.
And I just thought, well, look, rather than me sit here and tell people and advise them, I thought, you know what, I'm going to ask people in the industry their stories and their like how they started and how they got to be where they are today. And I honestly, when I first started it, I thought there'll be like a blueprint. I thought everyone would have gone through the same kind of pattern, and then after a while people are like, okay, I need to do these steps. But honestly, everybody's journey is so different, so
Mm.
unique, and it's just amazing that the people are just so willing to share and to be open and honest and talk about, like, talk about not only the great stuff that's happened but also the bad stuff and how they pick themselves up. And I think that's really inspirational. And yeah, and you know what, it's just our way to give back, because if we can just inspire one person to kind of join the industry, or to keep going and keep, they've got a dream, they've got a goal, and is to keep pushing towards it. And if they can, if it just helps one person, I think it's been absolutely worthwhile. So yeah, it's been brilliant. And I just think the whole ecosystem within ServiceNow is just, everybody's just so nice. That's like, for me, that's why I absolutely love. Yeah, honestly, it's just the most welcoming community that you'll ever kind of come across. I've recruited for many, many technologies. And when I first started recruiting for ServiceNow, there is a huge difference. It's very people focused. It's very helpful. It's all about understanding and taking the time and listening and having patience, and yeah, it's a great industry to be in. I'd highly recommend anybody that wants to join to go into it. I was going to ask you, like, obviously at the moment you're kind of in Germany and looking after Netherlands as well. Are you trying to encourage more like native language speakers to join the industry? Is that a drive with ServiceNow?
Good question. I mean, it depends on the region, right? I think UK, Ireland, or the English speaking countries are different, or it's relatively easier to find the talent, right? What we experience, for example, as in Germany or the Netherlands, or countries where you have a different native language than English, it's much more interesting. It's making the job much more interesting, right? But yeah, I mean, certain roles require native language, whatever this might be. But yeah, it's always interesting. Yeah.
Good. So yeah, wonderful. And like we mentioned in the introduction, you've done 60 hires, 60 plus, sorry, hires for ServiceNow. You recruited people into the organization. Like, what stood out compared to like others that perhaps haven't been successful? Like, any like tips you could share there?
Yeah, no. This is really great. I mean, if you are successful or not, every interview process is kind of a journey, right? Where you not just learn about the company and stuff, but also much more about yourself. And I think self-reflection is a key part, right? So you really should be able to self-reflect and also to learn from it, right? But to answer your question, it's basically about the mindset. So again, mindset, what does it mean, right? But at the end, it's about the curiosity to learn, to self develop, right, to grow. But also at the same time, I would say, so one value, for example, is also stay hungry and humble. So besides having success, right, and I mean, when you are successful, you deserve it, right? But at the same time, how do you stay humble? This is kind of a key element. But also when it comes to win as a team, having this mindset, what does it really mean to work in a matrix organization, big corporation like ServiceNow, right? It's not just about being one person who is successful, but really having this mindset that drives you. I think this is kind of key. And when I think back, this is obviously, besides the knowledge about the industry, about for example, in a sales role, right? Having the knowledge about the telco, for example, but also how to sell software. This is one thing, right? But that doesn't make you successful. Not in the interview process, but also not in the end in the role, if you would get it, right? So therefore, I think those points I mentioned there.
Yeah, that's perfect. And you're right. It's like having that mindset of just being positive. Nobody wants you to fail. Nobody,
Yeah.
like when you go for an interview, they want to give you this job. They've got no interest in interviewing 10 people. They just want to interview one person. And then, that makes it easy for them, right? So yeah, definitely. And I think like people get nervous as well, right? So I do it. I get nervous. Everybody gets nervous. What do you have any tips for calming nerves, do you think?
This is a very good question, because I'm struggling with it, also nowadays, right? For example, yeah, I had a recent situation where, yeah, it was quite easy to get overwhelmed and to let your emotions free, kind of. And especially in those situations, but also it's kind of the same with an interview process, right? It's quite, yeah, it's hard to maintain the emotions, right? But this is the thing that differentiates you, right? Because at the end you can stay focused. And one thing I'm currently also part of, at ServiceNow, so ServiceNow provides also a mentoring program, right? And I have a mentor, who is, in the US, manager in a solution consulting organization. And I asked him the same question, so what is it that you do, and this is also a very important thing to be able to do, to ask questions, not being afraid of getting judged or whatsoever, because everyone is learning, right? But basically what he said is, breathe. It sounds kind of, yeah, easy or whatsoever, but breathe 4 times in, 4 times out, right? And then, even that what kind of impact it will have, it works. And that's interesting. And this is what I'm, yeah, trying to do now, when I get the feeling that it's becoming dangerous, or not dangerous, but yeah, can be overwhelming. So yeah, this helps a lot. Sounds
Yeah,
simple
that's
but
amazing.
effective.
It's very good. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, just take some time out, breathe. It absolutely helps. So yeah, it's amazing. And it's just interesting. You just picked up on the mentorship program. Is that just for ServiceNow employees, or is that for like external people as well? Like,
Yeah,
yeah, partners.
I think there
Yeah.
is a program for external people as well, to get in touch with ServiceNow colleagues. Don't ask me about the name. Probably when a colleague is listening now, he's like, "Hey, you should know that." Yeah,
You put it in the
you got
comments
me. You
box.
got
Yeah.
me. Yeah, yeah. We will put it in the comment box. But yeah, no.
Yeah.
But what I'm participating in is, yeah, indeed, internally. But
Yeah.
I mean, you don't really need to have a program. I mean, what's holding you back to reach out to people via LinkedIn? I mean, we have the real pleasure to have LinkedIn as a platform, for example, LinkedIn, right? Who's, yeah, it lowers the barrier to reach out to people in specific areas with specific knowledge and expertise, right? I mean, go to LinkedIn, search someone, ServiceNow technical consultant, for example, in your location, reach out, and yeah, just try to build a relationship, and then
Yeah.
learn, or go from there. So
Yeah.
don't think that a mentoring program is necessary to learn and to get to know people and etc. Right? Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And there is the ServiceNow community as well. I think on the ServiceNow website, which you can ask questions, and I think even from there you can build relationships with people, right? And then yeah, take it offline
True.
and they go right. Let's
Yeah,
talk. So
true.
yeah, that's amazing. And you mentioned earlier the RiseUp program.
Mm.
Now, for anyone that is brand new to ServiceNow, is the first time that they heard about ServiceNow, what is the RiseUp program?
Yeah, RiseUp program. So if you would Google RiseUp program, I think there would be a lot of results coming, right? Not just from ServiceNow, but we also have a program that's called like that, right? But basically, it's a program that provides someone who wants to change, for example, career, right? For example, from the retail industry to software, right? And yeah, to really, it provides a framework. Usually it's about 3 months, right? And for example, for Germany, you would also get a language course, so that might help. But yeah, basically it's providing you the framework to learn specific areas of the ServiceNow technology, right? And you can be a developer afterwards, engineer, platform architect, whatever it is, right? You can also go in sales and so forth. But basically, it enables you to change your career. And I mean, maybe I'm biased. You have to tell me, but ServiceNow is the place to be to when you want to go into software. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. And is it free or do people have to pay for it?
that's a very good question. It's free. Yeah, it's
Oh
free.
wow, that's wonderful. So it can literally, and do you need to have like an IT background? Like do you need to have done at least done a degree in IT? Like do you need to have some understanding of IT or can you literally be fresh? Like
Yeah,
I've never done this before.
yeah. So the thing is, and let us have a look now at my profile, right? So
Yeah.
I don't have an IT background, and I would get accepted because
Wow.
so it's kind of yeah. I hope it does make sense, the picture, but
Yeah.
basically it's about you don't need to have an IT background to go into IT, especially nowadays when it's yeah, kind of an employee market, it's much easier to change industries, right? And therefore, yeah, ServiceNow provides you with all the content and all the specific perspectives you need to be successful in the IT world. However, I mean, you should feel comfortable and curious enough to not just start the program or yeah, another program, but also to maintain and finish it. You need to be aware that there will be situations where you feel overwhelmed and you're thinking like, why am I doing this? All the good stuff, everyone is having, even they might not tell you. But basically, those are the moments where you need to overcome. And yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing, amazing, and what an amazing opportunity, for anybody that wants to join, the industry. I think that's fantastic. It's not, I know a lot of other technologies there isn't such a thing, and if you want to join that particular, like get experience of that technology, you have to find an employer that's willing to invest in you and train you. And it is tough these days because there are so many people out there that already have experience. So I think this is what a fantastic scheme that's been operated by ServiceNow. So I think it's amazing.
You might also get the question in your head, okay, is it worth it? Does it make sense to go into ServiceNow, for example, right? But I think when it comes, for example, to RiseUp, as we were just talking about it, the fact that ServiceNow created it is one thing, right? But also having the bold saying that we want to upskill 1 million people within the next few years, right, is another thing. And I think it just showcases also, so you could think, okay, it's a marketing thing, right? It might be a little bit, but on the other side, it's much deeper than that, right? Because we truly believe in the opportunities ServiceNow has in the market, but also what opportunities might be a result out of the huge opportunity in the market, right? So yeah, just want to say that.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's what an incredible vision to have, incredible goal to have. And, from my angle, being in recruitment, agency recruitment, there is a huge demand for
Hmm.
ServiceNow. The
So
demand is
how
off
is
the
your job,
scale.
Farah? Is it easy? Let us know.
It's tough.
It's tough.
No, it's great. No, I love it. I absolutely love it. We, linking humans, because we're a specialist service now recruitment agency, that's all we do. It's our bread and butter. We see it from our side, and there's a huge demand, for people, resources, both permanent and contract, and particularly like Germany, Netherlands, there's a huge demand there, particularly for native speakers. There's a real, it's like we just can't find enough people, so that's fantastic. But yeah, I mean, look, from my perspective, it's great. I think the biggest thing is it's the people, the people that we work with in terms of helping them to build and scale their teams, the people that we work with to help them find jobs. It's just incredible. Everybody is just everybody's together to make this happen, and that's what you need that kind of mindset of people that are very open, honest, want to, like, there's everybody's, they're entrepreneurial, they want to build a platform. And this is how the platform's going to evolve. This is how the platform's going to grow as well. It's by having these bright minds kind of thinking outside the box and going, right, what can we do to take this platform to the next level. So it's a really exciting time to be in, in the ServiceNow space. So yeah, no, it's amazing. And what I was, we kind of touched upon, being like humble and stuff, but it's like having that kind of mental and emotional well-being is really important. In our jobs as well, in everybody's jobs. What do you personally do, Christian, to kind of make sure that you don't burn out, you don't get overwhelmed, and
Yeah.
can you share us any? Yeah.
That's a good question. I think, yeah, so I haven't answered it yet, right? But there are certain things I try to do that are supporting the bigger cause, right? So basically, I think without my wife, it wouldn't be possible. I mean, when you have a look and read, for example, also on Glassdoor, right? So, and also when you are on ServiceNow web page, ServiceNow is successful, yes, but success doesn't come, yeah, alone, right? So therefore, the I would say the pace is quite high within ServiceNow, And for example, to give you, yeah, I can give you a personal example, So when I was starting at ServiceNow, I didn't have the time to think about, yeah, how do I structure my work most efficient or whatsoever, all the stuff you have when you start a new role in your company, right? So it was going for 1 year, because it was so fast paced, so much yeah, open roles and all the good stuff, And then there was a time coming where I had, so it was slowing down a little bit, and then it was a time where I had the time to think. And then I thought, what am I doing? What have I done the last 1 year, And it was interesting. And I also were coming up then with the conclusion, I need to change something, because yeah, to not just deliver and over deliver and giving everything for the work you do, to, yeah, everything. There's a certain cost to it, So the question or the topic you just raised is so important. Yeah, but without my wife, it wouldn't be possible. But also having, again, the ability to self-reflect and to be aware of the situation you're in, that you are, yeah, that that you might need to adapt or adjust or whatsoever. But basically, I also try to, yeah, for example, the podcast you mentioned, right? So it might sound, for example, doing another thing that adds work and volume and time cost and whatsoever on your plate, but at the end it gives me so much back, So it gives me energy, it gives me another smile, although I smile, of course, with ServiceNow, but another smile is always good. So I think it's also a mind perspective. Just do things that are good for you, where you get energy from, and it doesn't matter what it is, Sometimes it could be a good sleep or a breath or a walk outside of the office or the home, right? But yeah, also reading good books. I think reading books is also quite good, at least for me.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's wonderful. And, it's great that obviously you gave a shout out to your wife. I think, sometimes our partners, our family can sometimes get forgotten, right? But actually they're the backbone, they're like the foundation that keep us sane. And, and for anybody that doesn't have that kind of at home, reach out to the ServiceNow community, because you'll make friends and friends become your family as well. So there's always people that you can lean on. But yeah, that's great advice. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. And look, just one final question that I've got for you now.
I'm
So
ready. Shoot.
if you yeah, okay. So listen, we're gonna do a little bit like I think I mentioned to you about Back to the Future, and I think you told me you haven't watched this film, so you you must go and watch Back to the Future. But if you could go back in a time machine and talk to your 21-year-old self, what advice would you give him? And this could be totally non-work related.
Yeah, I think there are certain things, but one thing I would say is not being afraid to ask questions and reach out to people. I think besides the workspace, it's important also in your personal life, because it's not just about being not afraid and reaching out to people, but also to build your network, to overcome fear, to deal with fear, and just yeah, show yourself that that shouldn't be a showstopper for whatever you're dreaming of.
That's amazing. Do you know what? That's the best advice. That really is. So, and I can tell you what they did in Back to the Future. They bought a sports almanac which had all the results of all the sporting events, and the bad man went back in future and put on loads of bets and became this multi-millionaire. But hey, your advice is better. So, no, this is amazing. Look, Christian, I just want to say a huge thank you. It's just so wonderful to speak with you, to hear like the amazing work that ServiceNow is doing. And I'm really excited to keep going, partnering up, and yeah, it's a fantastic time for anyone that's looking to join ServiceNow. Highly recommend it. Reach out to Christian. And yeah, that's amazing. So thank you very much for your time today.
Yeah, the pleasure is totally mine, Farah, and you're absolutely right. Let's connect on LinkedIn. I think it will be in the show description, right? But yeah, as our CEO would say, let's go.
Yeah, let's go. All right. Thank you so much then.